Hey, good morning, PCBC. This is Justin Gammon and Carolyn Anson. We're here doing Mornings in Matthew and just looking forward to just maybe discussing some things with you today about what we've learned through chapters 23 through 26. We got a big chunk of it here to talk about today, but man, great words in there from Jesus as he is trying to kind of get us prepared for what's getting ready to happen. Carolyn and I work together here at the church. I've known Carolyn a long time. Carolyn was a youth worker for me back at First Baptist Piedmont days, and she still came and chose to work with me here at the church. She helps me with all the connections ministry and also in the student ministry, and so we're very thankful for her. But I'm also thankful because she's always been just a rock to be able to depend on when it came down to studying the Word. And also when she was teaching our teenagers, a lot of great wisdom and everything there. So I'm excited to be able to do this with you today, Carolyn. I hope you're enjoying your donut. I've got my bagel here, coffee and everything. So it's been great. But let's just get started today. I'm going to start out with chapter 23, and then I'm going to kind of pass it to you, and then I'll kind of close it out if that's okay.
Sounds like fun.
All right. Well, as we get going into chapter 23, before that, Jesus was teaching, he was healing, he was feeding people. And now he's getting kind of into this end of where he's getting ready to go through all the things that he's been preparing for coming to the crucifixion and kind of get his disciples ready to go. But before he does that, he kind of lets the religious people know how he feels about them, because this is not why Jesus came to this earth to be amongst us and to teach us. It was not to be like the religious people, the Pharisees. And in chapter 23, it's kind of known as the woe chapter, because he is getting after the Pharisees because they have tried to portray that they're the closest ones to God by what they wear and what they say and how they act. And he's disgusted by that. He wants them to know that he sees exactly who they are and where Jesus looks at us. Jesus sees us not on the outside, but on the inside of our heart. And what I love in chapter 23, verses 27 and 28 is where it kind of comes to an end of him getting all over the Pharisees is this, as he says, "Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you are like whitewashed tombs, which are on the outside appear beautiful, but on the inside they are full of dead men's bones and uncleanness. Even so, you too outwardly appear righteous to men, but inwardly you are full of hypocrisy and lawlessness." And just to give you a little bit of history of what he was saying about whitewashed tombs is this, as back in those days, they didn't have cemeteries, but they had tombs where they put their dead. And what they would do is they would have a ceremony. They would put the dead inside the tomb. They would roll the stone in front of the tomb. And then they would paint the stone with whitewash paint, kind of like a thin paint. It would make it look nice for the day of the funeral. But it also was a time saver to let them know that there was a fresh body put into the tomb. And so what they did was they'd paint that stone with whitewash. And over the year, the seasons, the weather, the rain, the wind would knock that whitewash off the tombstone. And then when that was gone, they knew it was safe to go inside the tomb and get the bones, put them in a box, and bury them at the home. And what he was saying to these guys is, these Pharisees, is this: look, you look great on the outside. You wear all the priestly robes. You look better than everybody else. But what I see is on the inside, like a tomb, is dead men rotting, and that's what I see your heart as. And and I can tell you, back in the day, when I was at a lake house, I found a dead man in the woods, and it was horrible. It was the worst thing ever, and it stunk so bad. And I can't imagine ever going into a tomb too early and trying to be a part of that rotting flesh because of the smell and stuff. They didn't have the technology we have today. And I want you to know that's not a great place to be. And that's not a great place to be in our hearts either. I would not want Jesus telling me that I looked like I was full of hypocrisy and I was like a whitewashed tomb. And the Pharisees were told that by Jesus. And so he's just kind of getting prepared, like, this is not why I came to this earth. And he was really disgusted by the Pharisees about how they lived and what they taught. So I'm going to pass that on to Carolyn about the next chapter.
Yes, and then immediately following that, Jesus starts speaking about the future. He starts warning his disciples that there are many who will come and try to portray to be the Messiah. And he says, don't listen to them. Don't fall for this. And who they are really trying to fool are those of us who are actually Christians, to take us away from who we really are and who we've been following. And then beginning in chapter 24, verse 32, you will begin to see about 9 different parables where he's giving us these different kinds of warnings, different ways, I know, to reach different people, because we all learn in different ways. And so he comes out to them with all these different parables to start helping them know, listen, don't try to guess when this is going to happen, because the disciples were trying to get him to say, when is all of this going to come to be, Jesus? And he says, no one knows but the Father in heaven. Even I don't know. And he says it's very important that you keep watch and begin to get prepared for what's coming. So these 9 different parables, I mean, it's different things that are happening throughout. But what I wanted to kind of focus in on a little bit is something that spoke to me in chapter 25, 1 through about 13, where he's talking about the parable of the 10 bridesmaids. Let me just read from his word quickly. It says, then the kingdom of heaven will be like 10 bridesmaids who took their lamps and went in to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were foolish and 5 were wise. The 5 who were foolish didn't take enough olive oil for their lamps, but the other 5 were wise enough to take extra oil. When the bridegroom delayed, they all became drowsy and fell asleep. At midnight they were roused by the shout, look, the bridegroom is coming, come out and meet him. And all the bridesmaids got up and prepared their lamps. The 5 foolish ones asked the others, please give me some of your oil, our lamps are going out. But the others replied, we don't have enough for all of us. Go shop and buy some for yourself. So while they were gone, the bridegroom came. Those that were prepared, now they all fell asleep, Justin, isn't that funny? They all fell asleep, but the 5 wise bridesmaids brought enough oil. You guys, I think the oil is truly the Word of God. We are to put that inside of us and help us to be prepared, because times are going to get hard. And if the bridegroom should delay, which feels like a delay to us sometimes, he doesn't want us to not be prepared for when he comes. Because when he comes, they were prepared to go into the wedding feast and partake of all that was taking place. When the other foolish bridesmaids showed up, they knocked on the door and said, Lord, Lord, let me in. But he called back, believe me, I don't know you. So you too must keep watch, for you do not know the day or the hour of my return.
Yeah.
Firm warnings that he's given us. And then he goes on into talking about the final judgment, the final parable of the sheep and the goats, those who are righteous and those who are unrighteous.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good word. And, and I'll tell you, Jesus was working this time, really spending time with his disciples more than ever, because he knew that the time was short at this time. So he was trying to help them understand what was getting ready to happen. And chapter 26 is really considered the preparation chapter of, guys, I'm getting ready to leave here, and here's some things that's going to happen. And none of them really wanted to believe it. I don't even know if the disciples really took it seriously very much, because they constantly were worried about, hey, Jesus, you said this. You told me I'm going to deny you. One of us is going to betray you. And they were worried more about what was going to happen to them. Like, is it me? Is it, am I going to really deny you? Even Peter even kind of bragged about, like, there's no way I'm going to deny you. And it goes through this time of just how he says it's going to happen to this, in here in the next few days. You're not going to believe it, but it's going to happen. And he even took some time to spend, breaking bread and talking about the Lord's Supper with them and what that meant. And they just didn't pick up on it. They just didn't pick up on what was going on. And then they went to the garden to pray, and he asked them to be serious about praying with him. And I'm getting ready to go through this time, and they fell asleep. And I think what's probably the moral of this for us as we read this and apply it to our lives is, we don't know the day and hour that Jesus is coming back for us, but he has asked us to work diligently every day to know Him, to teach about Him, to tell the world about Him, and to pray. And I think a lot of times we don't take it serious enough. And if there's anything is what's going on in our world today, we should be even more diligent to read chapter 26 and go, here He is giving all these words of maybe warning. Hey, this is what's going to happen. This is what my body's about. This is what my blood's about. And not to be sleeping, but to be aware and to be praying about what the future holds. And I think that's something that we need to probably take in and put into our hearts and be diligent in doing. I love this mornings in Matthew because it's made us kind of go back and look and see, yeah, we know the Gospels. We hear about the Gospels. We know them because we teach them a lot in church or in vacation Bible school or youth settings and Sunday school. It's always talked about. But man, today, in the hour that we're in, these Gospels kind of come to light. And Matthew has really opened up about the 10 bridesmaids. I mean, the warnings. Hey, here's all these things that are going on. So church, I want to encourage you. If you haven't jumped in to be a part of this, and this is your first video, I'm sorry. But I'll tell you this, that if you would just come in and be a part of this is going to go on until October. It's not just going to be the only gospel we're going to look into. But we, as a church, has been kind of separated out, not being able to be together. This brings us together. Yes. This brings us together to be able to do, with each other individually. But then that's what I love about the online platform is that we still get to meet together and study the Word. So I really want to encourage you to keep doing that. Keep watch. It says in chapter 26, that's the preparation about what's going to happen. Keep watch. Keep praying. Be diligent in what you're doing. And thanks for letting us be here with you today. Carolyn, it's been great.
Thank you.